Want to gain benefits from using a Mace bell? Watch this.
Our next caller is Travis from Virginia.
Travis, what's happening, man? How can we help you?
Hey guys, long time listener, first time caller.
Hey.
I'm a 33-year-old electrician. Been teaching full time for about 4 years now at our apprenticeship. Through my second round of anabolic at the moment, which, by the way, I've loved the program. It's been a lot of fun. Between my history in athletics and working in the trades, I've had some good luck with mobility in my shoulders. Haven't had any issues, but I'd like to maintain that and maintain strength. So I invested in a Mace bell after hearing y'all talk about it. Got it in the mail, and then realized that I don't know how to use a Mace bell. So I started looking up videos and trying to figure out how to use it. And I can mirror those movements, but I don't have any idea as far as cues or what kind of muscles I should be engaging. Didn't know if y'all had any resources or any tips, so that way when I do eventually try to scale up in weight, that I don't rip my shoulder apart.
Yeah, we actually shot some video with John Wolf from On It, and he came in and we did a YouTube series where we just did sort of the real basics in terms of like a 360 swing, which the 360 swing for me like covers pretty much the basis of all Mace movements. That like it gives you the biggest bang for your buck for what you're trying to do, and so there is quite a bit of technique with it in terms of like how to hold your body and make sure that everything is in good composure. And so if you go through that, you'll see how we kind of break down each step. And he shows me how to kind of hold it up. So, it's going to be at the most effective angle. But this is just something to like, what weight did you get? Like, did you get a 20 pounder, 15 or 10 pounder? Like, did you start with a lighter one or the heavy one?
I got started off with the 10-pound, which has been pretty forgiving.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so just go through that series and we kind of break down each part of the movement. It's really about control and like being able to be loose when you need to be loose and be able to sort of create muscle tension to decelerate the movement. So a lot of it is just based on control and flexibility to create that sort of stable environment there in your shoulders. But it's a great tool and a great exercise to improve upon and like build that skill. I actually would suggest even that you start with, I would say, a kettlebell and doing some halos with that to start, just to get that rotation down pat and to be able to kind of get through that, bringing it overhead and then right behind your head. So I don't know how much your external rotation is, but the wall test that we have in Prime would be a great way to kind of test that and see what your ability is with that first. And because a lot of times, like we don't press anything behind our head anymore. That's been kind of like shunned and taken out of people's programming, or even doing pull-ups behind our heads. So we don't have really good external rotation. So that's something to make sure you check first, because otherwise you're going to compensate with that with your lower back and you're going to flare up with your ribs. A lot of these things are going to show up in terms of compensation. So to do the wall test first to make sure you're bracing properly and getting that connectivity first would be everything.
I want to address your question about, how do you progress your weight but without tearing your shoulder off, so that, because I just recently actually brought this up. I don't know how long ago it was, but remember when we were having this conversation about Mace bells, and I said, the one thing because I absolutely love them. Justin introduced them to me. It's been an absolute game changer for my shoulder mobility. It's one of my favorite ways to prime when I do any sort of upper body exercises. But I actually don't really progress that weight. I've worked my way up a little bit, but the reason why I don't is because I feel like I get the main benefits from swinging even the 10 or a 15 pounder. Like if your goal is to bulletproof your shoulders, which it sounds like yours is, it's not like you're trying to be the best Mace bell swinger, or it really doesn't matter as long as you have some sort of resistance, 10 to 15 pounds will do the job. It'll wake up all them stabilizer muscles. It'll keep the shoulders nice and mobile and primed before you go into your workouts. So I don't really worry too much about going up. And I think that it's become popular. And when we find Mace bell guys online, it's very trendy to see them swinging, and it's cool. Like, it's impressive for me to see Justin swing way more weight than I can. And I think that there's nothing wrong with having that as a goal. But if your main goal is you're doing it to keep healthy shoulders, then believe it or not, the 10-pound mace is good, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and I think order operation too. I would even suggest doing the Indian clubs first, just because we can have one at a time, and really build and develop that skill of rotation in all areas too. So the heart swing's really good at that. So you get control in those rotations all the way from your wrist, elbows to shoulders, and building upon that, I think is an easier way to learn how to organize that.
Go ahead,
Travis. Do you play sport? Do you play any sports, or did you play any sports when you were younger in high school?
I did, yeah. Football, threw the discus, and I did powerlifting.
Okay, good. Okay, so the reason why I asked you that is I'm going to try and kind of convey something to you, because you said something
sports analogy coming
in your question, and yep, it's coming. You said something in your question that is pretty illuminating. Now, bodybuilding has brought a lot of good things to strength training, but it's also brought some bad things to strength training. And one of the bad things that it brought to strength training is it got people to think that every time they do an exercise with any resistance whatsoever, they have to think about the muscles they're working. Now, for bodybuilding, this is perfect, right? I want to isolate a muscle, or I want to feel a connection to a particular area. But when you're doing a skill or a movement like swinging a mace bell, it's like when you threw the discus. Imagine if you were coaching someone with the discus and they said, okay, what muscles should I be focusing on? And you're like, no, don't focus on muscles. Practice the movement. Because if I sit there and think shoulder, core, bicep, it's gonna segment the movement, and it's not gonna become very fluid. The same is true with the mace bell. You don't want to think about what muscles necessarily that you need to activate or feel it in. Think about perfecting the skill in the movement. It's much more of a skill than it is a muscle-specific exercise. Otherwise, because if you watch bodybuilders do something like a kettlebell swing, because they know they segment everything all the time when they lift, it doesn't look like a kettlebell swing. It looks like an upright row reverse curl squat, if you ever watch them do it. It's like they're trying to figure out what muscles to activate and where do I feel it. You can't do that when you do a movement like mace bell. It's not about shoulders, biceps, core. Yeah, those are all active while you're doing the movement, but don't think of it that way. Think of it as a fluid skill.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
These are hilarious to me because they're so hard to articulate what's happening, because it's a very specific type of a movement that you have to practice continuously to get sharper at it, to have more fluidity in the movement, and also like to be able to stabilize your entire body. The whole goal of it really is anti-rotation everywhere else except for the shoulders, right? And so to be able to create that, it takes a lot of practice and ability to loosen your shoulders when you need them to be loose, and then brace and control the momentum of the mace bell.
Yeah,
so
the muscles you use and you feel afterwards is a side effect. Don't think of it as the primary effect. You don't want to think about what muscles do I need to activate and use when I'm doing this movement. Just perfect the movement. Think of it as a sport. Think of it as throwing a discus or playing any other sport, throwing a baseball. Perfect the technique. And then if you feel something sore afterwards, well, that's just the byproduct of the fact that your body needs to get used to doing this particular movement.
That's a good cue, what Justin just said, though. I want to go back to that because I'm actually, as you were asking this question, I actually I was out of personal training when I got introduced to mace bell, so I actually haven't even had the opportunity to practice articulating this to someone. So it's interesting going through this question and hearing everybody kind of describe it to you over a podcast.
I know. But it's a very visual thing. So it's tough.
Yeah, but Justin just said something that I think this is what I would do with you. Is like I would actually I would start with the halo with the like a 25-pound plate or something. And what I would cue is, all right, our goal is for you to keep your entire body still except for your shoulders. Can I keep you from arching your back or leaning to the side? Can I keep you completely rigid while allowing your shoulders to move that weight all the way around your head, and then get you to understand that now this is the goal when we're swinging this big old mace, is can we keep everything else stable while allowing the shoulders to rotate the bar around your head, and thinking like that. Like that's the goal, is to get to that place.
We're tipping the weight like a pendulum and then our our elbows are really a point of focus in the
Yeah.
whole thing. So it's, there's a lot to it in terms of the skill, and like that video, this actually motivates me to want to do a video describing it after I'm showing you the actual movement, because it'll be a lot easier for me to kind of convey some of those subtleties that you need to consider.
For now, let's Travis, are you on Facebook? Do you have a Facebook?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to throw you in the forum. If you're not, are you not in the forum? Are you?
Not in the forum, no.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw you in the forum for free, and what I want you to do is actually shoot a video for us of you swinging it, and then Justin could probably give you some cues and tips by watching you do it, which would probably
a lot
be
easier for me to
to be
describe
easier
that way.
to describe what he sees potentially wrong with the swing or subtle adjustments versus us trying to articulate the entire movement without seeing you. That'll help both of us.
Awesome. And I did have one more question too. For my trigger sessions, would a 10-pound mace bell, would that be an appropriate level of intensity for trigger session work?
It's not the same thing as a trigger session, but you could replace it. So that's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, trigger sessions are more muscle focused, more bodybuilding, whereas the mace bell is, again, more movement. You're working some muscles too. But yeah, you could switch them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to get good at the mace bell, I would suggest doing so.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, it's pretty close to our mobility days, so I would probably throw it in there.
If you want to get better at it, that would be a good idea. Instead of doing trigger sessions, to do the mace bell.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thank you guys, man. It's been an honor. Thank you for what all four of y'all do for the industry.
You got it, man. Thanks for calling in.
Cool.
Do you guys remember having?
I'm really proud of you, dude.
Why?
You've been hitting it pretty well on the sports.
I
analogies.
understand enough about sports to convey what I need to convey.
I bet if somebody who was a first time listener, they would have
just enough.
They would have no idea, dude.
Yeah, I don't know names of athletes. I don't even know the rules of most sports or all the rules. But I
Vince
understand
Lombardi
the mentality.
quotes, you'll just throw them out
I know
there.
movement.
I'm like, whoa, what?
And I also hear enough to be able to bullshit if I need to.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, dude.
No, you know what though? It's funny. Do you guys remember the first time watching a bodybuilder do a kettlebell swing?
That's a great.
God.
You gave a great. That's why I'm being serious. I know I'm razzing you a little bit, but I'm actually being serious. I think that was a great analogy because you would never tell an athlete. You would never break a baseball swing, baseball bat swing.
Yeah,
you
activate your obliques, use your
or
biceps.
Yeah, you wouldn't say, okay, break down all the muscles.
That would fuck up someone's movement. It would mess up the skill of the whole thing. This is why Olympic lifting is so skill oriented. Olympic lifting is so different than bodybuilding. It's so different because you don't care about what muscles you're using. You care about the movement, perfecting the movement.
Yeah, and to that point, like in terms of strength coaches, like if we're looking at movement like that, we're watching the movement in real time and cueing as they're performing. So it's the same on this level. Like I really would, to your point of like bring them in the form, I think that's the way to go because I need to see it to be able to cue like one little subtlety that they could focus on in order to shape that movement in a better direction.
Well, especially, and you brought up, that you would have him do zone 1 first because he may not even be able to swing it properly because he's not primed enough to be able to pull his shoulders in external rotation.
Yeah.
If he can't get into that position, well, we could try all we want to swing that thing pretty. It's not going to be if we don't
It's gonna
address
be ugly
it.
otherwise.
Right.